You're standing on the weathered cliffs of Keshm Island, gazing across the Strait of Hormuz now. It is the year 1700, and the morning sun turns the water to molten copper below. Ships crowd the narrow passage below you, their sails catching the first light of golden dawn. The scent of frankincense and sea salt fills the humid air as dhows glide past gracefully. Merchants' voices echo across the water, haggling in Persian, Arabic, Hindi, and Portuguese. This is the busiest waterway on Earth, where empires rise and fall with the morning tides. Every ship that passes carries silk, spices, gold, or dreams of fortune far beyond measure. Today, we'll journey through the strait that connects 3 continents and countless civilizations. From Persian forts, bristling with bronze cannon, to Omani ports, where pearls cost more than gold. From pirate havens hidden in rocky coves, to markets where you can buy absolutely anything. Picture yourself aboard a merchant vessel, navigating waters where fortunes are made and lost daily, where one wrong turn can lead to riches or death, and sometimes both happen in the same day. Let the voyage begin now. You're sailing south from Bandar Abbas, the jewel of Persia's southern coast and gateway to Asia. Stone fortresses loom on your right, their massive walls baked golden by centuries of relentless sun. Persian soldiers in indigo turbans and long embroidered coats watch from the ancient battlements. Muskets rest on their shoulders, brass barrels glinting, ready to repel any bold European privateer. The harbor behind you teems with vessels from every corner of the known world and beyond it. Chinese junks with scarlet sails tower over nimble Arab dhows, and heavy Portuguese carracks riding. Bales of raw silk from Canton are stacked beside crates of delicate blue and white porcelain plates. Sacks of black pepper from Malabar lean against barrels of aromatic Yemeni coffee beans here. Indian merchants in white cotton robes inspect blood-red rubies from Burma under jewelers' loops. Armenian traders with distinctive pointed hats negotiate prices for Persian carpets in rapid Farsi. The air vibrates with a symphony of languages as deals are struck in the precious shade. Barefoot porters carry impossibly heavy loads on their shoulders, singing work songs rhythmically. Bandar Abbas controls the Persian side of the strait with iron grip and golden touch indeed. Every ship that passes must pay tribute to the Safavid Shah in heavy silver akçe coins. The city has grown rich on these taxes, its overflowing markets dealing in the most exotic goods. Fountains splash in courtyards while wealthy merchants sip tea in silk-draped pavilions leisurely. But this wealth has made the port a tempting target for every naval power in the region. The Dutch East India Company eyes it hungrily from their fortified base in distant Batavia today. The English maintain a fortified factory just outside the city walls, watching and waiting patiently. The French send ships to probe the harbor defenses, mapping channels and measuring water depths. But for now, the Persian cannons keep all challengers at bay, belching acrid smoke and thunder. Your dhow swings east, following the shipping lanes that hug the Persian shore carefully and slowly. The water here is turquoise and deceptively shallow, barely 20 fathoms deep in many places. Fishermen in weather-beaten boats cast circular nets for tuna and mackerel with practiced ease. Their daily catch will feed the markets of Bandar Abbas before the afternoon heat becomes unbearable. Rocky islands rise from the sea like broken teeth, each one a navigator's worst nightmare forever. These are the Greater and Lesser Tunbs, disputed territory claimed by Persians and Arabs both alike. Pirates lurk in these channels like wolves in a forest, waiting patiently for unwary merchantmen. A ship separated from its convoy is easy prey for the fast coastal raiders always watching. They strike without warning, take what they can carry, and vanish into the island maze instantly. The strait is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, a true geographic choke point. Every trading ship bound for India, China, or the Spice Islands must pass through here alone. Control this passage, and you control the wealth of the East, a prize worth absolutely any price. Ahead, the fortress of Hormuz Island comes into view on its barren, lifeless volcanic rock. Once the mightiest stronghold in the Persian Gulf, it now stands half-ruined and eerily haunted. The Portuguese held it for a century, extracting tribute from every passing vessel that sailed by. They called it the key to all the East and decorated it with gold, plundered from trade. Then came 1622, when Persian and English forces joined together to storm the high walls. After weeks of intense bombardment, the Portuguese lowered their flag and sailed away forever. Its empty towers are a reminder that no power holds the strait forever, no matter their strength. Seabirds nest in the crumbling battlements where Portuguese cannons once commanded the water fiercely. You pass close enough to see the red stone walls stained white with accumulated salt spray. The island is uninhabited now, except for the wind and the wheeling gulls overhead constantly crying. Ships give it a wide berth, wary of the hidden rocks and coral reefs lurking beneath. Local legend says the spirits of dead soldiers still walk its ramparts when the moon is dark. Sailors make signs against evil as they pass, and none will land there after the sunset fades. Crossing to the southern shore, you approach the coast of Oman under a blazing afternoon sun. The landscape transforms from rocky Persian highlands to the stark desert mountains of untamed Arabia. These are the Musandam Cliffs, rising sheer from the sea like walls of fire and stone. Omani watchtowers dot the coastline, each one positioned to signal approaching raiders with torches. The Omanis are the finest sailors in these waters, their knowledge of currents legendary throughout. They can read the wind and waves like scholars read ancient texts, seeing invisible patterns clearly. Their dhows can outrun any European warship when the monsoon winds blow favorable and strong. Built low and sleek, these vessels are perfectly adapted to these treacherous waters and reefs. You make for the port of Qasab, nestled in a deep bay surrounded by towering red cliffs. The town appears suddenly as you round a headland, white buildings against red rock dramatically. Date palms cluster thick around freshwater springs, a precious oasis in the barren, jagged mountains. Children play in the shaded alleys, while women carry water jars balanced on their covered heads. Omani traders in pristine white dish dashas and embroidered kumas crowd the small, bustling harbor. They deal in pearls from Bahrain, fine Arabian horses, and slaves from the coasts of East Africa. A group of pearl divers prepares their equipment near the water's edge with quiet determination. Nose clips made of turtle shell, woven baskets for the harvest, and heavy polished stone weights. These men can hold their breath for 3 minutes or more, diving to crushing depths below. The finest pearls fetch prices equal to gold, adorning the necks of queens and empresses worldwide. But the human cost is terrible indeed, with many divers dying young from permanent lung damage. Their bodies are ruined by the constant pressure, blood vessels bursting, ears never properly healing. Yet still they dive year after year, for one perfect pearl can feed a family well. As evening approaches, you anchor in a sheltered cove where the water glows luminous and green. The Omani coast is honeycombed with hidden harbors, known only to local captains through experience. Here, away from prying customs officials, smugglers and merchants meet to trade goods untaxed. Bales of Bengali opium wrapped in waxed canvas are exchanged for Persian silver coins in secret. Arms merchants sell French muskets and Dutch cannon to anyone who can meet their dangerous price. No questions asked, no records kept, just gold changing hands in the gathering purple dusk. The sun sinks toward the western horizon, painting the strait in shades of crimson and deep gold. From this vantage point, you can see both shores clearly, Asia and Arabia facing each other. The distance between them seems impossibly small to hold such immense strategic importance forever. More than 5,000 ships pass through these waters every year, carrying truly unimaginable wealth. Silk and tea from China, cotton and opium from India, coffee beans from the highlands of Yemen, spices from the Moluccas, porcelain from Jingdezhen, carpets from Persia, horses from Central Arabia. Every empire that matters has sent its fleets here, seeking control of this narrow, valuable passage. The Portuguese came first in 1500, building forts and demanding tribute from all vessels passing. The Dutch followed close behind, their massive merchant fleets backed by warships bristling with guns. The English are here now, their East India Company growing stronger with each passing profitable year. The French prowl these waters too, seeking any advantage over their European rivals in the East. But the strait belongs to no one, only to those brave enough to navigate its dangers. Night falls slowly, and cooking fires bloom along both coasts like earthbound constellations brightly. You can hear the distant call to prayer drifting across the water from minarets in the darkness. The temperature drops mercifully as a breeze picks up from the Gulf of Oman, refreshingly cool. Stars emerge one by one, the same stars that have guided sailors here for countless millennia. Tomorrow, new ships will arrive bearing goods from ports you'll never see with your own mortal eyes. New fortunes will be made in dawn transactions, new partnerships forged over glasses of sweet mint tea. And new blood will stain these ancient waters, as it has for countless centuries before now. This is the Strait of Hormuz in 1700, where three worlds collide every single day. The Persians guard their northern shore with fortresses and fleets paid for by lucrative trade tariffs. The Omanis control the south with superior seamanship and intimate knowledge of every hidden reef. European powers prowl the edges like sharks, building trading posts and forging alliances with rulers, each one waiting for the moment to strike, to claim this gateway for themselves and their nations. The strait would remain contested for centuries, its strategic value only growing with time passing. Oil would eventually replace silk and spices, but the game would remain exactly the same as before. Like and subscribe, because the next journey takes us to another crossroads of human history.